Allen & Company wishes OOIDA and all members a safe, healthy, and joyous holiday season.
OOIDA, representing America's truckers since 1973, presents Landline Now with your host, Mark Redding.
The fight to keep bad brokers accountable for their actions has hit another roadblock. FMCSA wants to delay the compliance date for a broker financial responsibility rule. Why? Jamie Jones and Mark Schremer of Landline Magazine join Scott Thompson to answer that question and others. Also, a broker transparency proposal was supposed to come out last month, and we're still waiting. Jamie and Mark returned to Studio A to bring us up to date on that and more. OOIDA gets calls daily about broker issues, so we'd like to round up some of the topics involved in those calls, such as carrier tracking, harassing phone calls, and more. I'll chat with Tom Crowley and Aaron Lynch of OOIDA's Compliance Department. And finally, Marty Ellis is hearing about a topic that's sure to get a reaction: speed limiters. Specifically, the idea that speed limiters may actually cause speeding. I'll talk with the man who drives the spirit of the American trucker. And now, here's Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Mark. We're going to spend a little time putting the spotlight on brokers, specifically what FMCSA is and isn't doing to hold the bad ones accountable. We've got new developments on this issue, and joining us with the details are Jamie Jones and Mark Schremer of Landline Magazine. Good to see the both of you.
Hey, good to see you, Scott.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks for being here as always. Mark, I want to start with you with the latest here because we've, as I said there, got a few new developments here. Let's start with FMCSA's broker financial responsibility rule. The wait continues, and it's now been extended. The reason, I think, makes sense, but doesn't make it any easier to swallow.
Yeah, it's just the latest frustration, I think, that truck drivers have when it comes to broker regulations. They've been asking, for years and years to basically protect them from unscrupulous brokers in a variety of ways. And this was one that was, one of the few positives to look at, that this was enacted, final rule back in November 2023 to these financial responsibility. Basically, if the security fell below $75,000, they'd be immediately removed. And that was supposed to take effect here in 2025. But because of the FMCSA also is moving to a new registration system, they've decided now at the last minute that, oh, by the way, we're not going to be able to do this, so we're punting that down to 2026. So, like I said, it's just the latest kind of setback, and you can't blame truckers for feeling just so let down by this whole process of stuff, because any glimmer of hope that something is going to be done about this issue, it just seems to continue to be kicked down the road. Yet again, it's the, Lucy with the football type situation. It seems to be happening.
Yeah, and it's perfect. Again, I think it's important to say that it's understandable to be disappointed. But, I mean, if you really look at life in general right now, the business model of scams has become so prevalent at every level. I mean, between the phone calls you get, between the emails, the viruses. I mean, it's just that criminal element out there that is, preying on the broken system of brokers and truckers right now. I mean, that system is broken, and they're taking full advantage of it. And so this registration system is needed to address that. But that doesn't make life any easier for the next year that you have to sit and wait.
Yeah, 100%. And another thing that makes it, I think, a little more frustrating, if you're paying attention, OIDA on this financial responsibility rule had petitioned the agency to kind of reconsider, to strengthen it even more. And in those comments, they basically said, hey, this is an issue. If we're moving to the registration system, we might not be able to enact all this stuff in time. And it seemed at the time to be largely ignored. And now here, last minute, oh, by the way, we're not going to be able to do this, and so we're going to have to punt it down the road. So, like Jamie says, 100%, I think this is a reality, and it is something that needs to be done with the registration and the identity verification, all those things that are coming to protect. But it doesn't, change the fact that it's just the latest thing of this issue not being addressed in a timely manner.
And that's the frustration, I think, in a nutshell, really, is that if this issue had been tackled when we were told it was going to be tackled, this would have already been done, and now we'd be able to move seamlessly into the registration modernization process. But as you keep saying here, they keep kicking the can down the road. And now the question is, is it going to get kicked down the road again?
Well, the thing is, and they can blame it on anything that they want to, but this 11th hour kind of move to do that and the modernization of the registration and all of that, the IRS has had this system in place for years. It's not like, oh, hey, we finally got the technology. It's not that, we just now found a solution. The solution has been laying there right in front of them just as long as this problem has. And I do believe, it's valid that they add this element, this registration element, but I'm sorry, it could have been done way before now. And that's where the agency needs to be held accountable.
It is frustrating, and you talk about accountability, and we talk about commenting all the time, and I know it kind of falls on deaf ears. It does make a difference, as we've talked about before. FMCSA has to read these comments, and there is a comment period open right now that people can air these grievances and make their frustrations known to FMCSA. Mark, you've got information on your piece on landline.media how to do that, but that is something I think people should consider, just taking a few minutes to do that.
Yeah, and it's through November 19th. Now, I will say that this is a situation where the comments probably aren't going to change anything. I think this delay is probably inevitable. But at the same time, there's nothing wrong with airing your grievances and getting them out there for this issue and letting them know, changes that you feel as a truck driver or motor carrier that need to be done. But as far as the delay, I think that's happening.
It probably won't change anything. Right. But again, we've had meetings with Truck Stop here at OOIDA's HQ. We know that the criminal element is just pervasive in the broker industry. And right now, it's just a matter of trying your due diligence to protect yourself. And unfortunately, that's going to carry on for the better part of another year. And it's shameful that the agency let it get this far out of control.
Yeah, we've got more actually to talk about on this issue along with others. Jamie and Mark, stick around because when we come back, we're going to talk about more broker stuff. I want to talk about the registration modernization process a bit more, along with this new study from NHTSA on collision avoidance technology. So again, Jamie and Mark, we'll talk to you when we come back after this in a few minutes. But for now, we'll toss it back to you, Mark.
Thanks, Scott. Congratulations to Michael Eugene Zanella of Columbus, Ohio. He's received the OOIDA Safe Driving Award for 33 years of safe, accident-free driving. That's the equivalent of a car driver going 248 years without causing a single accident. The OOIDA Safe Driving Award program is sponsored by Shell Rotella. Marty Ellis and OOIDA's tour truck, The Spirit of the American Trucker, are at the Sheetz Truck Stop in Springfield, Ohio. That's located at Exit 59 on Interstate 70. Stop in, say hi to Marty, and join OOIDA for a $10 discount. Next, Jamie Jones and Mark Schremer return to discuss a broker transparency proposal. I'll discuss some of the current problems truckers are having with brokers with Tom Crowley and Aaron Lynch of OOIDA's Compliance Department, and Marty Ellis discusses the idea that speed limiters may actually cause speeding. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
Running on ultra-low sulfur diesel? Stay protected this winter with Howe's Diesel Treat and Diesel Lifeline. Steer clear of gel and ice with North America's #1 trusted brand. Find Howe's products nationwide at select retailers, auto parts stores, truck stops, and on Amazon.com.
When it's time to overhaul your truck engine, help protect it by insisting on a genuine Vibratech TVD crankshaft damper. Heavy duty, absolute premium quality, and they're made right here in the USA. Find a dealer at vibratechtvd.com.
Truckdown.com. Whenever you have a breakdown, you need Truckdown.com. 24/7 access to 40,000 verified heavy-duty repair vendors nationwide. Owner-operators need roadside speed. Truckdown.com.
It's tested and proven. Burn 2.1% less fuel when you balance all wheel ends with Centromatic. Call 800-523-8473 to get the OOIDA discount.
Welcome back. Joined again by Jamie Jones and Mark Schirmer of Landline Magazine. Good to see you.
Hey, nice to be here, Scott.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it.
Thanks for letting us stick around.
I was going to say you haven't gone very far.
Yeah.
When we last left you, we were getting into what's being done to deal with bad brokers out there. We talked about the delay in the broker financial responsibility rule. Now I want to talk a little bit about the latest with regard to the broker transparency rule, or I guess lack thereof of the latest information. Mark, these things are different, and I think sometimes they can get confusing because there are so many proposals out there. But just a quick refresher about the transparency rule and what it would do.
Yeah. So basically, this goes back to a petition that OOIDA made all the way back in 2020. And where it starts with is just enforcing existing regulations that are on the books to address broker transparency, to make sure that owner-operators, motor carriers have the rights to these records. Basically, a lot of the brokers have been able to evade these regulations for years. And so the petition from OOIDA basically asked for FMCSA to start enforcing and also to close the loopholes that has been allowing these brokers to get away with it. That petition was granted in 2023, so they had to wait 3 years for it to even get granted. And then we looked at October 2024 was when we were finally supposed to see a proposal from FMCSA. Now, here we are in November. We still have no proposal. That's not that much of a surprise. It is very common for those target dates in the regulatory agenda to not be hit. But the reason this one hits so hard is because, like what I mentioned, going all the way back to a petition from 2020, and now we're looking at it maybe 2025. Maybe we're not going to see anything at all. We don't know exactly what's going to happen. So the frustration of truckers right now about this is, I would say, extremely high, and it is echoed in a statement from OOIDA President Todd Spencer. Do your damn job, FMCSA. This is a regulation that's already on the books. You need to start enforcing it.
I think what's particularly frustrating about this is this has been a position that OOIDA has had for a very long time, that this regulation needs enforced. And the way the brokers would sidestep it back when we had more legitimate brokers out there, if you will, the way they would sidestep it is, well, we're not telling you you don't have access to this information. You just have to come to our office and physically look at it. Well, who has time for that? You know, I mean,
it's also 2024.
Yeah. And so that's the whole thing. It's been out there where you could have been emailing these records. It's not like it was a difficult thing.
Yeah.
We've had the interwebs for a while, people. Come on.
Yes, exactly.
And so, but again, and I touched on this when we talked earlier, this lack of transparency and the other issues going on with brokers is being utilized by the criminal element, foreign countries even, okay? I mean, these are criminals in foreign countries who are preying on truck drivers. And I mean, to the point that loads don't exist, all kinds of things are happening. So this transparency, along with the other broker regulations that we keep pushing for, would help reduce that. I'm not saying eliminate it, because all you have to do is say, it can't be hacked or whatever, and you'll find a 14-year-old in a basement somewhere, they'll hack it. But, it will reduce a lot of the scam.
Yeah, and I've thought about this issue, and I know the both of you have thought about this issue a lot as well. And the frustration is understandable, and I can hear Todd's voice when you read that quote there about doing your damn job. The thing about this is I don't quite understand what the holdup is with FMCSA, because as you pointed out, Mark, we've been looking at this issue for a number of years. We know that there are rules on the books that can be enforced that would help the problem. It wouldn't solve it by any means, but the holdup, I just can't kind of grasp what is behind it, and why are we here? I just don't get it. Give me some answers is what I want.
Jamie probably can give a better history lesson on it than I can. But
all right, we're moving on.
No, but the things that I've heard and sitting in some of these listening sessions and things over the years, it seemed like some of the people at FMCSA were surprised that there even was a regulation on the books to begin with about this. So I think there was some of that to start with. And the other part of it is getting them to understand that there was a reason it was on the books and that there is a link to safety, because what they try to go back to all the time is, well, what we're supposed to be about is about safety, not about the business transactions, those sort of things. But there is a link to safety when you have these type of issues, and you're taking good owner-operators out of business because they've been taken advantage of, and now you're replacing them with some new inexperienced driver. It's definitely a safety issue. But yeah, it's one of those deals. It is head-scratching, and I will defer to Jamie on maybe more of a history on it.
No, you did a great job on it. The other part of it, though, and that was probably the single most aggravating excuse that we would get for years and years and years out of the agency is it's all about safety. But if you want to take this a little bit further on the broker transparency and the registration and financial responsibility and all those things, that is also securing our freight network. Because right now, we don't know who has their hands on what freight. We don't know where it's going necessarily because, again, we have members who have shown up to pick up a load and it's not even there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's just too many problems. So that safety element, until we start securing our freight network, we're going to continue to have problems on that realm. And I really don't even want to speculate how out of control or how dangerous that could be.
Well, that's a good note to end on. We're not going to end it, though. Let's shift gears to another topic. We'll take the,
what other bright, shiny issue do we have to talk about, Scott?
Well, check out door number 2, Jamie, because we're going to talk about NHTSA. They're looking into collision avoidance technology. They've announced a new study on this. Basically, the agency wants to see how that technology works, how drivers are interacting with it, what they like, what they don't like, problems, et cetera, et cetera. It's an interesting topic because my vehicle has this crash avoidance technology in it. More and more trucks have them in them as well. And they're going to look at this issue. It'll be curious to see what they come up with.
Yeah, and it's definitely something that should be looked at. And the good news on this too is they are going to do in the study, I think, some passenger vehicles, but also some heavy duty trucks. Yep. And we've had OOIDA Executive Vice President Louis Pugh has said in front of Congress that they do need to look at those type of things differently with technology, because whether it's automatic emergency brakes or these different things, they don't work exactly the same way as they do with cars as they do with trucks. But a lot of this stuff, this collision avoidance or things like these, warnings or buzzers or sensors that go off because they think that there's some sort of imminent danger. And the reason I think that it is so important to really study how humans in reality react to these sort of things is if you get too many false alarms, then you create the boy is cried wolf sort of situation.
Right.
And then when it really is a real problem, are you paying attention to that sensor going off in the same way if the last 7 times was a false alarm?
Right.
So I think it is definitely an important study, and I hope they glean something useful out of it.
Well, and it always goes back to the technology is only going to be as good as the programming, and it's only going to be as good as the infrastructure will allow it to be. It wasn't too long ago. I got lane departure warnings on, steer control and all that on my car, and I was going through a construction zone where the lines hadn't been.
So your steering wheel was shaking the entire time?
I mean, it was going nuts, and thank God that there's an off switch because, about halftime it's off anyway because it's silly, but it's situations like that. It's inclement weather. It's shadows on bridges. It's all of these things that throw these false positives, and you can only have the thunder scared out of you and fight for control of your vehicle so many times before you are just going to get in and start turning everything off.
And one of the things that's really dangerous, I think, for truck drivers especially, is, okay, it's not working well. It's creating these false alarms, and so your instinct is to turn it off. Yep. But now, say you do get in a wreck, and we talk about these nuclear verdicts, all of these type of issues going to court. If the other side can use that you had this technology and you turned it off, they're going to try to use that against you.
Well, we just had that case with the NTSB just released their final report on a bus, party bus and truck crash. Now, the party bus was disabled and going very, very slow at 1 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. The truck ran into the back of the party bus, and instead of talking about the person driving the party bus wasn't even licensed properly to be driving it. Yeah. Instead of addressing the driver issues, the distracted driving, the untrained driving, all of that, we went NTSB as grabbing at tech as the solution. And again, who says that truck didn't have it on there and they just turned it off because it had failed so many times before? We don't, that wasn't even addressed in the report.
Yeah, and this report I think will be interesting too because, as you point out, truck drivers are going to be involved in it, and I know they're going through the process of figuring that out right now. But as you talked about, Louis talking to Congress about how, this technology, and not even just this crash avoidance technology, automatic emergency braking, all these things are kind of tied together here. And I think there is a general misunderstanding about the difference between a passenger vehicle and a tractor trailer, and what that technology does. And hopefully this gets to a point where the algorithms, the technology is honed, and they can kind of make those adjustments as they are needed. But that's a big if. I don't know.
Well, and you got to think about too, like Louis pointed out, a lot of it depends on what you're hauling and everything too. Right, and if it just slams on the brakes in a truck, depending on what you're hauling, or if there's icy road conditions, all of that, you talk about the amount of weight and everything going on, that can create a really dangerous situation fast. It's going to be a lot different than maybe your Honda Accord, of what happened. So it's definitely all of those variables need to be looked at. But like I said, I will, we've had a lot of negative throughout these segments, but I'll say a positive. I am happy that they're at least looking at it and understand that just because this is your goal with this technology, you do need to look at it how humans react to it in real life situations, and how does it affect outcomes.
Well, and also, I'll bring the negativity back. It also begs the question, though.
I knew you would, Scott.
Yeah,
I knew you would.
I'm good for something. Why are we just now doing this now? I mean, the technology's been around for a while.
Well, and that's the thing. If at any point when you start having mandated technology being added to, cars, trucks, whatever, when it's mandated technology, that's probably not a great idea. If it's that good and people feel comfortable using it, they trust it, the marketplace will bring that on. I mean, people will seek out that
technology.
Build it
and they will come. Yeah.
Yes, 100%. So research like this should be on the front end of any mandate, not on the back end of it.
And if you have a driver that, 2 million safe miles and they've never used this sort of technology, and then you introduce it to them and they feel uncomfortable about it, maybe you should listen to them and, let them do it the way
trust them. Yeah.
Let them do it the way they've done it safe for decades, as opposed to creating something that makes them feel uncomfortable and, not ill at ease out there on the road.
See, I knew we could bring it back to the negativity. But all important conversations and important issues, and we'll, of course, continue to cover all of these and more. Jamie Jones, Mark Schrimmer, we appreciate your time. As always, we'll see you again soon.
See ya.
See ya. Thanks.
You can get the latest information about these stories and more on our website, landline.media. We'll step out for a quick break, but hang tight. Landline Now returns in just a moment.
Are you tired of the IRS following you around like a dark cloud? Call 888-557-4020 and get your life back.
At Truck Stop, we built a better load board for carriers like you. Sign up today and access over 600,000 loads on the most trusted online load board. Learn why the best in the business rely on Truck Stop to make more money and start driving your profit today.
Landline Now. Welcome back. We spent a lot of time on the program over the years talking about broker issues, and OOIDA gets calls daily about the topic. So we'd like to do a quick roundup of some of the topics involved. Here was some advice and information on that and more are Tom Crowley and Aaron Lynch of OOIDA's Compliance Department. Guys, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having us, Mark.
Thanks as always, Mark. Glad to be here.
Well, glad to have you. And this is kind of a little broker potpourri, which sounds like the worst potpourri in the world. That's not the stuff you want to put in your bathroom to make it smell better. Let's talk about one of the ones that I think has come up a lot, and I know I've noticed in notes from your department that it does. Carrier tracking. A lot of brokers are requiring this in their contracts. And why is this a problem in particular for the carriers?
Well, I mean, so they want tracking. They want to, the brokers want to keep track of exactly where the load is. Well, you would think that would alleviate check calls. No, it doesn't seem to alleviate check calls. They still want to do check calls. They still want to wake drivers up during their sleep time and get pissed off if they don't answer their phone and reply to them. And also the tracking issue, one of the biggest issues I have with it is that they fine you if the tracking fails or you lose service. Maybe your phone goes dead. Who knows? They want to fine you and throw out a $250, $400 fine, whatever. There's one broker out there in particular, I'd love to name them, but I know you wouldn't want me to, that has a 20% reduction of your rate if the tracking fails. And funny thing is, I think that broker causes that tracking to fail on occasion because, hey, it bumps their revenue up.
On occasion, it seems like every phone call I get fails. I can't say it's 100%, but I can say 100% of my phone calls, it fails.
Yep, I agree with you.
That would seem like something that if you documented enough, you could show a real problem there. But, showing the problem and getting anything out of it are two different things.
That is true. I mean, and we have looked at that, and, the problem is it's a single motor carrier it happens to here, a single motor carrier there, a single motor carrier there. And, motor carriers, when they're one-truck operations, tend to be independent, people that kind of, they'll take it on the chin and just keep on going. And, if everybody said hell no, it wouldn't happen. But, as soon as one person says hell no, you got three other people coming up to undercut their business.
Well, and I think a big thing, too, right, is this is privacy issues that these small carriers have, right? All our calls, privacy, they want your data. This is popularized, in 2024. Everything's a digital space nowadays. Your data is important and it's valuable.
Yeah, no, I agree. The ELD companies, the data that they get that they can bundle up, and I believe do. Some of them bundle that up and sell that data. You know how valuable that would be for a broker to know where all the trucks are?
Oh, God, yes. Yeah.
So that when you call in and you're trying to negotiate a rate, they already know where you're at. It's... Yeah,
there's 500 trucks up here. I was going to post this rate for this amount of dollars. Now I can post it for this because I know it's going to get taken. Yeah. They can dictate the rates. That's scary.
It is. And I tell folks, when you're negotiating a rate, so you find a load that's going to take you home, right? You don't tell the broker, I really want this load because it's going to take me home, because he's going to try to lowball you then.
Oh, yeah.
But when they already have that information, it's, and if I recall correctly, back when OOIDA was fighting the ELD mandate, and we fought it for a long time. Without OOIDA fighting
it from happening for a long time.
Yeah, I think you would have had ELDs back in the early 2000s without OOIDA fighting it. But, Nevertheless, our biggest issue was privacy. Driver's privacy, carrier's privacy, autonomy. Just everybody. If everybody knows all your bargaining chips, they're all on the table. Well, what do you got to bargain with? What do you got to leverage?
Well, and why do you think all these third-party vetting companies want your data too, right? It's valuable. They're spending thousands upon thousands of dollars getting their algorithms set up with AI, putting manpower and resources into this part of the business because this is where everything's going.
And Aaron, you mentioned AI. One of the first phone calls I got this morning was from a small motor carrier who, one of these vetting companies, they had told them, no, our AI says no. So people do not even make these determinations now. It goes through the algorithm, and you have all these things in place, or the AI just kicks you out and says, no, don't use this carrier. Just that simple.
Yeah, you're either flagged or you're not flagged. It's that simple.
That particularly strikes me as dangerous because we've already seen that the ability of an artificial intelligence to do anything depends on the information going in. And if that information isn't good, you could be knocked out for a reason that has nothing to do with you.
BS in, BS out. Yeah. And this particular individual, it was kicking him back on is because he has a physical address, which motor carriers are required to have a physical address on their MCS 150. Well, he also, because he's very rural, and he also has a P.O. box under his mailing address. And that one issue there, that P.O. box with the physical address, is what's kicking him back. And he's having a hard time getting loads because the AI is saying, hey, 2 different addresses, one's a P.O. box. This is a potential bad, scammer. And he's not, but and he's got many, many years of hauling for these same brokers that now won't load him because of this. That's another thing. You hear the brokers for so long, they would say, well, you got to have a good relationship with your brokers so that this fraud and all this crap doesn't happen. How's that good relationship benefiting you now?
Yeah, it's hard to develop a good relationship with the machine.
Yeah, and with folks on the other side of the table that don't play by the rules, that write their own rules, and there's no enforcement of the rules. Of course, that's another show.
Yeah.
Well, I'll speak on it right now because that's what I was going to talk about. This is an unpopular opinion with some, but I'll say it anyways. This is what you get when the feds have lackluster enforcement on the rules that are already in place and are late to the game. All these third-party vetting systems, this is a problem, and it's going to, and the problem's on the rise. And trust me, it's going to get worse, and it's going to accelerate in the upcoming years. I guarantee you that.
And I would agree with Aaron. It is something the feds, based on the way they do things, it made the industry ripe for this type of actions. And so you have private industry like these vetting companies that come in to try to, bridge the gap. But there's no regulation over these places. They just pretty much do what they want and, no consequences for it. The only consequences, the small carrier pays.
Yeah. And going along with what you said, Aaron, we've got a couple of problems there. Number one, government doesn't move quickly. Having worked my entire life in the private sector, I've dealt with government at times, and I always have to adjust my thinking to realize that I think in maybe days and they're thinking in years. They're not tech savvy. They aren't good at keeping up with the latest tech. And tech is moving faster than ever.
Yeah, it is. And, government is reactionary. They don't see things coming and get in the way of them. With all the fraud that's been in the last couple of years, they're still slow to act. If somebody calls me up and says they've been scammed, who do they tell? Unfortunately, you tell the feds, you could tell them, but they're not going to do anything. They don't have any ability to go after some of these scammers. A lot of it comes from overseas, and every once in a while you'll see a write-up of a scammer that got caught. But compared to the thousands and thousands that are out there, it's just a drop in the bucket that get caught.
I want to go back to something that you said, Tom, a little while back, and I kind of want both of y'all's take on this, and that is, you mentioned the harassing phone calls, that even though we've got all this tracking technology, that they're still calling carriers, sending messages like, why isn't the truck moving? Because they can tell if they're tracking you, and what are you doing right now, and so on and so forth. How big of a problem is this? I mean, it's always been a problem, but it seems to me that even with the tracking tech, it's actually gotten worse.
I believe it has gotten worse, and it is based on the fact that the broker can see if the truck's moving or not. And drivers are required, mandated by regulation, to take rest breaks, to take, certain off-duty periods. And when they're on their off-duty period, I mean, I'm not mad at them for not answering the phone. They're asleep. But, at the same time, this broker, well, you didn't answer the check call, so we're going to fine you. It's all about the dollar, and it's all about what the broker can keep and take away from the motor carrier.
Well, and I'm curious, you mentioned that, Tom, and guys, I mean, you are required to have 10 hours of not doing anything that benefits the motor carrier, even if you are the motor carrier. If you are answering these calls from brokers, does that technically disrupt your hours of service clock?
It's supposed to, whether or not you actively change to on-duty status because it's work-related is another, a whole nother separate issue. But yeah, it's supposed to.
If you look at the interpretations in the FMCSR, and I have read them many times in my 16 years here at OOIDA, many, many times, there is one that says a brief phone call interruption does not necessarily interrupt your rest period. But let me tell you, if I'm sleeping, and like as you get older, I only sleep for maybe 6.5 hours a night. It's not the best sleep I've ever had. But if during 3 hours into that sleep, I got to wake up and answer a call from a broker that's just being an ass and calling me while I'm sleeping, why is the truck moving? And I got to explain to him, I don't go back to sleep that easy. That can interfere with my rest period, and there just is no consideration from these brokers. I mean, and they get pissed off if you don't return their call. They get pissed off if you don't answer, and it all equates to, well, they're going to fine you for this and they're going to fine you for that. They got tracking on my truck. Why do they got to call me? Well, that's a question you'd have to ask the brokers.
Well, and keep in mind, if you kind of watch what Tom say, if you really listen there, he said brief. That's the key word to take from that. Most of the time, these phone calls are anything but brief.
Yeah, I can imagine.
What is brief classified as? 30 seconds, 2 minutes,
yeah, that's
10 minutes,
vague.
30 minutes?
But I don't know, if you wake me up halfway through my sleep cycle, my sleep time, I just don't, I'm not a switch. You can't just flip a switch and go back to sleep.
Yeah. Well, and, a lot of people complain about the fatigue problem, which I think is overblown in trucking, to be honest with you, looking at the actual federal statistics. But if you're concerned about that, why are you doing these things?
Yeah, no, that's true. And truth be known, the brokers, they're only concerned about themselves and their customers, and the motor carriers are just a vessel for them to, make money with. It's just, it is what it is. It's about the dollars.
Okay. Well, guys, it looks like we're running out of time. Is there anything else on this topic you think we need to get through to people?
The only thing I would like to say is, if everybody allows it to happen, it will. The only thing that will stop some of this stuff from happening is people saying, hell no, we're not going to do this. Otherwise, the brokers will take and take and take.
Okay. Well, guys, thank you very much. I certainly appreciate all the information.
Glad to be here, Mark.
Thanks as always, Mark.
I've been talking with Aaron Lynch and Tom Crowley of OOIDA's Compliance Department about broker issues. And folks, if you have a problem or if you need help, call the Compliance Department at 816-229-5791. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Capital Reman, the leader in remanufactured diesel engines and components, has partnered with OOIDA to offer exclusive member benefits. Visit capitalreman.com today to support America's transportation industry and take advantage of your benefits.
Penske owns and operates some of the best-maintained vehicles on the planet. Our used trucks come with a 5-year maintenance report and pre-sale inspection. So if you're in the market for a top-quality pre-owned truck, look no further. Search our inventory today at PenskeUsedTrucks.com.
Since you started, what you've loved about trucking is the freedom. Heading out on your favorite route, a good driving song, and thinking about truck insurance. Well, maybe not that last one. That's why we're here. At OOIDA, we have a full range of truck insurance products, expert advice, and great customer service, helping you get the right coverage for your operation. Go to OOIDA.com because your job is to drive. Our job is to help with everything else.
Landline now. Welcome back. Every week, we check in with Marty Ellis, who drives OOIDA's tour truck, the Spirit of the American Trucker. Marty is making his way back to the mothership, otherwise known as OOIDA headquarters, and along the way, he's hearing about a topic that's always guaranteed to get a reaction: speed limiters. In this case, Marty has noticed a phenomenon that we've talked about before, and that is the idea that speed limiters may actually cause speeding.
Carolina west to Denver, up to Bangor, west to Austin, coast to coast, sea to sea, sail on, sail on.
Well, Marty, how are you doing?
I am lovely, Mark, and you?
I'm doing great, thank you very much. You've had an exciting time lately. I guess you went to another truck show that I don't think we've been to before.
No, yeah, that was our first time at the Louisiana Truck Show, and actually it was their second annual show, and it was a good time. Got quite a few people through talking in the trailer, and of course Rodney Marine, one of our board members, he came down and spent some time. He's a local from around there, so that was nice. So he's hoping that he can have his truck ready to be in the show next year.
Well, fantastic. Look forward to that.
I was just going to tell you about the jambalaya cook-off. I didn't know how they were going to do it, but there was probably about maybe 10 people cooking, and you bought a wristband, and then you went around and sampled until you had your heart's content full of jambalaya. So it was good. I didn't find a bad one in the bunch.
That's a proper Louisiana way to welcome folks in.
That's right.
Well, I know you spent some time at the TA in Denmark, Tennessee, but where are you at right now?
Well, actually, I'm getting ready to head up to the Sheets in Springfield, Ohio. That's I-70 off of exit 59. And Trevor will be up here Friday, our fuel card manager, and so he's going to be out there. This will be our first time at a Sheets fuel stop. We have a lot of our members with our fuel card that go there for the price of fuel, so we figured that we'd try to have them in the mix, and of course we're excited to be there and can't wait to check it out.
Oh, fantastic. You'll have to let us know how it goes.
Absolutely.
Well, let's get on to some of the issues that people are talking about. And, you know, the first one that you sent me a little message about is one that I know is just going to get people boiling, because it always does, and that's speed limiters. But it's one particular aspect of speed limiters that caught your attention here. What's going on?
Yeah, I just come up with the question in my head, do speed limiters actually cause speeding? Because when I'm out traveling across the country, you can always tell the trucks that are limited as speed limited, and because they are going below the speed limit in normal operating conditions out there, but during construction and any other time that the speed limit goes down, they're actually speeding, because they're trying to make up for the lost time that they feel that they have had while they're not being able to go the speed limit. When the speed limit, let's say, is 70, they can't go that fast because their company has speed limited their trucks. So in their mind, they have to make up for that in those slower speed limit areas. And I think that we kind of, even the business owners, really need to take a look at that and see, is this really safer, or is it just all about saving fuel for fuel mileage or, because if we're looking at safety, I don't know if we're really succeeding in that endeavor, whether it's, a small fleet, a large fleet. Sometimes you got to kind of step back and take a look and say, are we really getting what we want?
Yeah, I have to agree with you. And, I was talking with someone about some of the statistics on accidents a couple of years ago. And one of the things they pointed out to me was that as far as when the truck driver is at fault in an accident, which is rare compared with when car drivers are at fault, but in the case where the trucker is, the number one cause is a category called speeding or driving too fast for conditions. And this guy figured out pretty quick, that's two different things. And right. I think what you're seeing is that driving too fast for conditions, which is actually the overwhelming bulk of the incidents in that category there. Most people are not actually exceeding a posted speed limit. They're driving too fast for conditions. And I think that's where that speed limiter kind of phenomena that you're seeing out there is kicking in.
Yeah, it's between that and, of course, the ELDs with these guys chasing the time down to the last second, because according to the ELD, if you're even a second over, you're in violation. And I still have not quite understood, the concept that at 10 hours and 59 minutes for the day, we're safe, legal, everything's good. And at 11 hours and even 1 second, all of a sudden we are no longer safe and we're a menace to society. So somehow, some way, some of our the folks that make these regulations really need to come and sit down with truck drivers, talk with truck drivers, and maybe get out in the trucks and actually see what's going on.
Yeah, and I will say that over the past, about 10 years, there are some in the regulatory community that are trying to do that. We've had a lot more listening sessions. We've had a number of people do ride-alongs. But I have to agree with you, I don't think it's quite enough yet. They still, I don't think, get what truckers get. I don't know that anybody can if you haven't been through it yourself.
Absolutely. And, I respect them for doing the listening sessions. But my problem with most of the time, are they actually listening or are they required to sit and let you talk? But are they really required to actually put some thought into what you're saying is, I guess, would be my question.
Yeah, that's always a question, I think. And I think it depends on the person doing the listening to a great extent.
You're right. I really do believe that. And then on the way up from Louisiana up to Tennessee, I was able to be passed twice on the shoulder. One I couldn't get over because I had vehicles next to me. So this gentleman, instead of slowing down and coming in behind, he decided to go past, of course, the ramp and pass me on the shoulder that way. And then another time I was actually passing a truck, and I was not speeding, but I was going the speed limit, and the truck that I was passing was going about 65, and that car apparently didn't think that was fast enough, and because I was going 70, and he passed over on the shoulder because he needed to get around us, apparently.
These were both cars that did this to you.
Correct. Yep.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, because if it was a truck, we were going to have a talk.
Yes.
I don't know who it is, but we were going to have a talk.
Absolutely.
Oh, well, Marty, we're down to just a little bit of time left here, and I was going to ask you what's up next, and it's something pretty interesting, isn't it?
It always is. Yeah, I'll be heading in for the fall board meeting, and so that's always interesting. Get to see some of the board members, talk to them, get to know them a little better, and of course find out what's happening in their trucking world, because everybody has a different experience.
There we go. Get 22 truckers in a room and watch what happens.
Exactly.
Well, Marty, we're out of time. Any final words before you ride off into the sunset?
Yeah, folks out there, just be kind to one another and give that guy next to you a break.
Brothers of the highway, children of the wind.
Once again, that was Marty Ellis, who drives OOIDA's tour truck, The Spirit of the American Trucker. You can find Marty's next stop on our show and every day at our website, landlinenow.com. That includes truck stops, truck shows, and other special events across the country. Again, you can find that at landlinenow.com. And you can also find the Spirit's complete schedule at the OOIDA website, OOIDA.com. That's our program for today. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
I'm a dad,
a son,
a husband,
wife,
I'm a writer,
photographer.
I farm.
I'm a veteran.
I love old cars, fishing,
my kids,
chrome,
and I am
a professional truck driver.
And together we are OOIDA.
OOIDA was founded by truckers to stand up and speak on behalf of truckers. We've done that by combining the individual voices of our members into a single, powerful voice. Protecting your interests, defending your rights.
Join us.
Make your voice heard. Join OOIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association. Call 1-800-444-5791 or visit OOIDA.com.